Hey, we're on WDHA's Reconnect with Rockers. Me, Terry Carr, with a new friend. We're sort of connecting for the first time. It's Sean Dowdell from Daze. I am so excited to be able to connect with you. This is like the perfect quarantine conversation, because I was thinking to myself, if I have Sean on the show at any point, how do we cover it in one show? Because this is such a big story to be told. Daze, first of all, congratulations. The acceptance from fans and radio and Chester's fans and new fans has just been tremendous. Sickness is doing really well for you guys. I was going to start by rewinding a little bit, but let's not do that. I want to ask you, why was it so important for you, Sean, to continue the legacy of Daze with your friend, with your brother, with your business partner, Chester Bennington, and be able to say, you know what, I'm the guy who's got to carry this over the finish line?
Well, thanks for having me on. That's a great question. So when Chester was still with us in 2016, he and I had a conversation. We were going to throw a big party for our company, Club Tattoo. We used to throw these big anniversary parties, and literally thousands of people would show up, and he and I would have some friends, and we would get up on the stage. We put on a concert, and it was a lot of fun. And we were discussing doing another one of these parties because we hadn't thrown one in a couple years. Well, during that conversation, Chester brought up reuniting Daze for that show. And as conversations persisted, he basically told me he wanted a rock band of his own, and he missed playing with me, and let's put the whole thing back together and see what happens. And as things progressed, we started talking about re-recording. We had basically 30 plus songs to use as a catalog to put out there and just see what the response would be. And so we started talking about redoing these songs together. And that was all while he was still alive. We started working on 3 of the tracks with a producer while he was out on the road during the One More Light tour for Linkin Park. And the plan was, when he got off the road, we're going to have him come in and retrack his vocals and then show us some of the new songs that he had been writing. We would do these phone calls where he would just kind of go back and forth and show me what he was working on. And some of it was really cool. And we were getting excited to do new stuff together and put this thing back together. Well, when Chester passed away, obviously all bets were off. It just kind of stopped. And, 6-7 months went by before I decided I couldn't. Every day I would wake up and it would grind me and just basically push me. And something was telling me, you just got to finish this music. And at the beginning, it wasn't about trying to get to all these fans or any of this stuff. It was just, I just want to finish this music we started. So I went and I had a conversation with Mace and Kristen. And I told them, I said, do you guys want to finish the music we started and just put it out there on our own? We don't need to have a big label or any of that stuff. I'm successful in business, and we can just, fund it ourselves and do it on our own. And let's just see what happens. And so they were on board right away. They loved the idea of finishing the record. And so then I flew out to LA and met with Talinda and said, hey, here's what I have in mind. What do you think? What are your thoughts? And, she basically said, look, you're his best friend. You're not going to do anything wrong to him. I already know you respect him. I already know you have his best wishes in mind, and that you're going to curate this in a way. I trust you. And basically she just said, I trust you. Do the right thing and it'll be fine. And then, so once I got her blessing, I called Chester's mom, Susan, and Chester's father, Lee, and had separate conversations with them and told them the same thing. And they both said, look, we love you. We know Chester loved you. We know he was excited about redoing this project. Make it awesome. We know you're going to do that. And that's really how and the why of finishing this stuff. It was important to Chester. It was important to me. It was important to the guys in the band. We always felt like the music got brushed under the rug when Linkin Park hit on all cylinders. And I understood it. I'm not mad at those guys at all. It wasn't their fault. But Chester later on, in Chester's life, he was not happy with the way the Daze stuff got completely. The water valve just got turned off completely. Our music basically got erased from everywhere. And it was available on some of those online platforms, for people streaming and Napster and all that stuff. But the band wasn't benefiting in any way out of that stuff. And it was all unlicensed copies flying around. And Warner Brothers wouldn't do anything about it because it was such a small project compared to what they were dealing with Linkin Park. And, all that stuff kind of combined is how we got where we're at.
I think the authenticity for me hit when I saw his mom talk about you. And, when you say like, Sean's the drummer for Grey Daze, it was Chester's first band and stuff, but I want people to understand, you guys went so beyond that, like so beyond where you were the drummer in the first band that he was in. No. When I saw the documentary and I saw what his mom said, and his mom made a statement, it's not verbatim, but she said something like, it just touched me, where she said, oh, Chester was kind of like a nerdy kid and Sean was like the big brother guy. And he was the guy who took Chester under his wing, kind of came in, talked to the family and everything. We knew him. I trusted him to be the guy who could take this music and do what Chester would have wanted. And when I saw the way that his mom kind of said that, for me, I knew what that relationship was like between you guys. And then when I would see video clips, whether you guys were at Club Tattoo and talking about, oh, Grey Daze and blah, like you could see how excited he was in those clips to talk about the band. So, the authenticity is so there. And I really wanted to talk to you because I want the fans that are just finding out about this project to not think that this was something that was his first band and now it's coming out, because the story is so much bigger than that. And I wanted to make sure that I made that point when I spoke to you, because you guys were so much more. You were best friends. You were brothers. You're a little bit older than Chester. You met him, what was he, 17 or something? 17?
He was 15 when I met him, 15. And I was 17.
Wow. You were 17. Okay. And I mean, it's a 15-year-old kid, and you guys got together and went to his dad, who was a police officer, and we're like, hey, this is what we want to do, and this is what we're going to do. And it's cool. It's cool. And even his dad was sort of like, yeah, I was down for it. He knew what he wanted to do. Tell me, because the band started out as a cover band, when did you guys know that you had this great chemistry to be a writing team? Because that's not something, you can love playing together and hanging out together and be brothers and stuff, but writing songs, that's a whole different thing.
Within 3 or 4 months, we were writing our own originals, and they were not bad. I mean, they weren't the best songs ever, but they were not bad. And you could hear Chester's vocal talent very early on, not only the way he could emulate the artists and the songs we would cover, but just the way he could project his emotional intensity through his singing was very apparent early on. And thank you for saying those nice things earlier. Sometimes it's easy to get caught up in some of the negativity, and we have tens of thousands of people that love the music and love what we're doing. But sometimes my mind gets caught up on one or two jerks on the internet that, they're internet warriors and they're, you're trying to get rich off this project. And I laugh and I'm like, first of all, you clearly don't know me.
Right.
I do very well in life.
You're an entrepreneur. You have your own things going on. So this is not the thing that's going to make you rich.
No, and I spent $100,000 of my own money on this record.
This is a labor of love for your friend. Money. Yeah.
And we carved out a nice chunk for all of his children off of the top of the album. We made sure that we're doing all the right things for the right reasons. So when I hear that kind of stuff, it bums me out because they just don't know me, and I have that kind of aggressive behavior when somebody says something that's real smart assy or they're just taking shots at you. My first instinct is to just want to punch them in the mouth. And you just can't do that in this day and age,
Absolutely.
It seems like there's no repercussions for stupid behavior these days on the internet. And in my day, when I said something stupid, somebody would punch me in the mouth. It's just the way I grew up, right?
Right. Me too.
But no, thank you for saying all those nice things. And it is important that people understand the history of our relationship. This was not just a band member. Was one of my best friends in the world. I was very close with this human. We would hang out. We would work out. We would go to restaurants. We would go on vacations. We played in several bands together, not just one. There was a lot of spare time that we spent together. And when he was getting lonely or wanted a friend to talk to on the road, he called me. That's the relationship we had. It wasn't just some guy who was a drummer for him 20 plus years ago. That's almost the last thing we would talk about.
Yeah. And plus, you guys went in business together. You had Club Tattoo, and then Chester kind of came in. So you guys were also business partners because he was kind of like, hey, look, I kind of want to be a part of this. I think it'd be cool to be in business with you. You're not in business with somebody if you don't have that level of trust with them, 1,000%, and have that work out. And you guys had a very successful partnership.
And you know what's really cool is I'm one of the few people in Chester's life that can say I actually made money for Chester.
Yeah,
I didn't
right,
take
right.
money from Chester. I made money for Chester. And that is really something I'm very proud of. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
he had a
absolutely.
lot of people in his life that want stuff from him and take stuff from him. And he was a very giving person and a very non-confrontational person. So sometimes he gave too much,
Yeah.
at least in my opinion. You
Yeah,
know,
no, he was
he
he
would
was
say,
a
no, you know.
sweet, sweet guy. I don't profess to know him, but I did some radio promotions with him. And I remember one in particular, we were having these technical difficulties, and he was performing that day. And he could not have been more gracious to be like, I can hang because I want to get it right for you guys. And
That's
you
awesome.
you don't always get that from artists. I've been doing this a long time, especially on a show day, you know, but he was just a generous, humble, decent, super decent person. So I want to talk to you too about how you got some people to get involved with this project that you knew, because of course, moving towards this project, I think every move you guys made was sort of like, would Chester like this? What would he think? Is this something he would want? So talk to me about some of these awesome artists that are on the project and why you chose to go with some of the people you did.
You know, first of all, let me just say I love the fact that you've actually done some research and you kind of understand where this project was coming from in the first place. You're asking some really deep, great questions, and
Oh,
thank you for
thank you.
that.
Thanks.
A lot of times I'm doing these interviews and I get these generic softballs that are, and it's the same stuff over and over. So thank you for diving deep. I really do appreciate that. It just shows your integrity as a journalist is pretty cool. So your question, when we started recording, we didn't think of having guest artists on it right away. It kind of culminated throughout the process. And on one of my texting conversations with Head from Korn, I'd known him since back in 2004, and we're just going back and forth. He's like, "Hey, brother, how you doing?" I'm doing good. And we're just going back and forth. And I said, "Hey, I'm doing this thing, and I'd really like your opinion because I know he wouldn't tell me, hey, this is so great. I mean, he would say, Sean, this sucks, or you know." And I'm emotionally attached to it, so I wanted an honest opinion. So I said, "Will you listen to this and tell me what you think?" And he said, "Of course." So I send him the track, and literally like 4 minutes and 2 seconds later, my phone rings, and I pick it up. He goes, "Bro, what is this? This is amazing." And he just starts going off. And I could just tell by his excitement that he really thought it was awesome. And then through that conversation, I said, "Well, would you want to play guitar on this track?" And he's like, "Are you kidding? Of course I would." He said, He goes, "I have one request." And I said, "Well, what's that?" He goes, "Can Monkey play on it too?" I was like, "Are you
Oh,
kidding me?"
oh my
Dude,
God.
first of all, the very first thing is Chester loved Monkey and Head. He loved those guys, and he loved all the guys in Korn because they were so genuinely nice to him in the early days when Linkin Park was on the upswing and they were going on those family value tours and things like that.
Hmm?
Those guys were genuinely nice to him. So for those guys to want to play on this music was a no-brainer for me because I knew Chester would have loved to have played with them if he had ever gotten a chance. So they play on a track called B12. And then we started, as that progressed, we started getting other people who Chester would have wanted to play with or had never got a chance to play with, or somebody he admired or somebody he had a close relationship with. And that's kind of how we had Marcos from POD came and play on What's in the Eye with Chris Trainer from Bush.
Yeah, he's great. He's
Yeah,
so
he
great.
did. Chris ended up
Really
playing
good.
on 4 tracks, and
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
became the silent member of the project. And we had a singer named LP who
She's
Chester loved.
awesome. Oh my God.
He loved her, and I remember taking a car ride. We
Chester
went to
loved
lunch or
her.
dinner or something.
Yeah,
What's that?
Chester loved her. Chester
Yeah,
loved
he
her.
Chester
Yeah, he
loved
was a
her,
fan. How cool is that?
and so we knew we wanted a female vocalist for this one track, and through a mutual friend of Chester's and mine, his name is Renee Mata. He reached out to LP's management and said, "Hey, we have this project. Chester was a big fan. Would she want to sing on it?" We got a phone call right back, and within 4 days, she was in the studio with us recording, and she
Wow.
was amazing.
Yeah,
She does a
she's awesome.
phenomenal job on a track called "Shouting Out."
Yep.
We had Paige Hamilton from Helmet play on a track called "Sickness." We had a friend of ours, Ryan Chuck, play on a track called "In Time." I know I'm forgetting some people here. Oh, we had Jason Rauch from Breaking Benjamin.
Oh, right,
He
right,
plays
right.
guitar with
Yep.
Head on a track called "She Shines."
Yep.
So all these people were people that Chester admired, he would have wanted to play with, had a good relationship with, and somebody that I know if he'd have been standing there, he would have said, yeah, I want to play with that person. So that's where it came from. We actually had people reaching out to us that were pretty big names that we turned down because it didn't make sense. Like we just didn't want to stack a bunch of names on the record.
See, that's what I love about the project. And I feel like every move you made with the project, you did it very methodically. You did it from the heart. You did it from your gut. And you guys asked yourself some serious questions about, would Chester have loved this? And you had to have loved getting those guys on and getting LP on and thinking like, I don't know, is this like kind of a sign from above that this is really working out to be probably better than you even anticipated going in?
Yeah, for sure. And there's no doubt that there were energies moving us from the other side. And I believe that energy was Chester. I think he was with us the entire time. And we brought, Mace brought a little portrait of Chester and we hung him on the recording console every time we were in there. We made sure that our focus was about making sure that every song really focused around Chester's vocal lines. And that's why you don't see any gratuitous, like crazy drum solos or guitar solos all over the place. This truly was about the song and the vocal hook for every single track.
Yeah.
And that's what we took on. So when we initially started re-recording this stuff, we took all the original music and just set it aside and rebuilt every single song around his vocal line.
Around his vocals. And his vocals now were not vocals that he recorded recently. We want people to know they were his vocals, which are so, it just goes right through you. It's like they're so moving. They're incredible. They're like peak vocals for him. And you guys built, like you said, all the music around those vocal tracks.
So when people ask me why I did this, you just answered the question better than I could. It's because his vocal performance and those songs are so good. They can't be ignored and they shouldn't be erased. That's why.
Yeah.
With all this other stuff going on, I mean, I could give you 50 other really legitimate, good answers, but that's the best answer. The music speaks for itself. And even when I have naysayers, the few people that don't like what we're doing, as soon as usually when they hear the music, they're like, you know what, this is actually really good. So you can usually win them over with look, listen to Chester. If you think the music sucks, fine. But I think there's a lot of people that are going to disagree with you. His performance is amazing.
Amazing. So
and so many people think that he recorded it right before he passed, because
I think mostly everybody did. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted
to raw it sounds.
make that point, you know, that no. And just the fact that his family was just so excited for you to be able to get this project out. I want to talk about the title too. I want to talk about amends. It's a word that we've used so many times. You don't really ever really think about it, you know? And when I saw that this was going to be the title, I was like, ooh, you know, does it mean what I think it means? And you say the word over and over and over, and it almost kind of morphs into a different type of word. So why did you decide to call it Amends?
Well, once again, you hit it on the head. There's a duality to the word, right? There was a song called Moray Sky on the album that Chester and I wrote the lyrics for when we were sitting on a beach watching a sunset in Mexico one year. And the chorus, as we were recording the record, we're kind of bouncing names. So what do we think we should call the album? And Kristen, our guitar player, said, what about making amends? And it comes directly from the chorus of the song Moray Sky. It says, if I had a second chance, I'm sorry, I just forgot the lyric. If I had a second chance, I'd make amends, only to find myself losing in the end. And that term for us really just kind of encapsulated everything we were doing. We're not saying sorry. That's definitely not what it means. Amends is a much softer way of coming to terms and closure with a series of events for us. And with Chester passing, that word just seemed to take on a meaning that was very applicable to our specific situation.
It has been such a pleasure to talk to you. I've been excited about this. I knew we were going to sit down. I had a little storm that was passing through town, and I was like, if my internet gets screwed up, I'm going to go ape, because I really wanted to talk to you about this great collection, this amazing tribute to your brother. And you guys have material for more records, which is really cool, because this can continue, and we can continue the legacy of, you know, really an iconic figure that led a revolution of a different sound of music with his voice, and that's Chester Bennington. So we will see more from Gray Daze coming. I certainly hope so.
Well, I certainly hope so too. You know, I guess it all depends on how this album is received, and if the fans like it, then we'll take the time and make another one for sure.
Sean Dowdell, my pleasure. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Stay safe in this crazy world that we are in. I'm glad you're healthy and you're safe. We hope we get to chat with you again when conditions warrant maybe an in-face visit, or I'll see you at a show or something. I'd love to have you back. But thank you so much for joining me on Reconnect with Rockers.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Great interview. Thank you.
Yay! We did it!